Right, so hi everybody. What we're looking at today is NDBs and ILS approaches. So let me get my seat in the right position first of all, and let's get our speed back. So what we're looking at today is basically NDBs. So we'll have a bit of a chat about what they are, how do we use them, and then we'll bash out an ILS approach that has an NDB located on the final approach segment. So we'll just see what that looks like and stuff. If there's enough interest in NDBs, I will show how to do an NDB approach in another video. So if you're interested in that, let me know in the comments section and I'll bash them out pretty quickly. Let's talk about what NDBs are first of all. So NDB stands for non-directional beacon, and basically it's a really simple nav aid in flying. So it's a beacon that works on AM radio signals, and so the non-directional beacon, the NDB on the ground, puts out radio signals that are picked up by an instrument in the flight deck, and the instrument is called an automatic direction finder, or ADF as we call it. So it's quite a useful nav aid in some ways. It can be transmitted really long distance, so whereas VOR can be relatively short range, NDBs can actually follow the curvature of the Earth, or the radio signals follow the curvature of the Earth, so you can actually get them to transmit and receive signals quite far away. The problems with NDBs are they can be quite tricky to use. In some ways they have what we call dip, so whenever you roll the aircraft, if you're trying to track an NDB, the dip will mean that it's harder. If you turn, say, bank left, the dip will mean that the needle banks left as well. So it can be quite hard to figure out where you need to roll out sometimes, and you kind of need to get used to your aircraft and when you need to roll out and to track an NDB, stuff like that. So that's one of the downsides. Dip is something that you can get used to though, when you can kind of figure out how to manage. Some other things that they have wrong with them, for example, they get interference from things like mountains, so they can actually get interference and make you think that the NDB is in a different position to what it actually is. Been a couple of accidents because of that in the past, long before GPS, so that's definitely something to be aware of. And the other thing which I've had in real life is that I'm not sure if it's the actual NDB itself or the ADF inside the aircraft, but either way they are affected by electrical signals. So any kind of electrical activity, thunderstorms, like stuff like that around, you can actually find that your ADF will point you to the nearest thunderstorm. So if you're IMC flying on your instruments and you're in kind of borderline weather, it can actually put you right in the middle of all of the crap. So that is probably one of the major things for me that I've learned about them. And one of the reasons why I don't enjoy using them. I don't mind them generally if the weather's nice, but if the weather's marginal, then they're not really that enjoyable to use. But they're a little bit more challenging than some of the rest of the stuff. They're definitely a little bit more challenging than VORs, and a lot more challenging than ILSs and stuff like that. So if you want to see a video on the NDB approach, then that's something I can do. So that's basically NDBs. On the information side of it, what do they look like? Well, not sure what they look like on the ground, but this is what they look like on the aircraft. So this thing here is Charlie Bravo. This is an NDB, and we are in Cape Town. So FACT is Cape Town. So what's the state of the aircraft at the minute? We're cruising at about 210 knots or thereabouts. We're at 7,500 feet. I'll show you the reason for that in a minute. And we're going to do some tracking on this Charlie Bravo, and we'll see if Flight Sim has dip in it or not, and we'll just show you how you track in a certain direction, how you would do that. So first things first, let's have a look at our plate. So as you can see, this is the Cape Town AFC chart, the kind of general overview. You can see here, here's the main runway 0119, and then there's another one 34 which we won't be using. You can see they've got a Cat 2 LS on that side and a Cat 3B on this side. I can't ever remember Cape Town having Cat 3B, but I haven't been there in a while, so maybe it does now. It must do now, I guess. And then there's this Cape Town NDB, which we're going to do some playing around with, Charlie Bravo, and there's a VOR as well, a couple other VORs. MSA wise, you can see that there's a 25-mile ring here, and you can see the MSA where we are at the minute. So we're up just to the northeast of Charlie Bravo, so we're somewhere around here near Auckland, just inside there probably. So you can see in this area the MSA is 7,300 feet, and I don't fancy hitting something while I'm talking to you, so that's why I'm at 7,500 feet. So that's just a little background for that. So next thing is so let's set up the radios. So we're only going to use one radio, so we're going to set up the ADF. Our ADF is in our navcom page. Press the down arrow and then you've got ADF. So at the minute it's got 890 there, so that's no good for us, so we want to put 0462.5, and we're going to put that on. Oops, wrong button. Navcom, radios. Okay. The 462.5, so we should be getting a signal now. And we are. So this is what it looks like. We'll take the plate away for a second. So this is what it looks like really, and this is the same on all aircraft that use ADFs. All it is a needle. So the needle points to the NDB station. So if we want to turn towards that, bearing in mind it is slowly going behind us. So if we want to turn towards that, we probably need to turn to 220, something like that. So let's try that. Right, so as we turn now, you can see the needle's still swinging around. So let's get us pointing directly to the NDB. So one thing we haven't got is an ident. So we don't have the actual Charlie Bravo ident coming up. So what we could do is we could listen into it on the radio. I'm not sure how to do that in this plane, and I'm not really going to worry about it, to be honest. It's not something that's overly important, but you could listen to the ident on the actual ADF radio. Right, so let's correct that a little bit, and we do have some wind, so let's see what happens. Right, we're going to point straight towards it, and because there is I think there's a tiny bit of wind, what should happen is we should drift off. In fact, let's put the wind up a little bit higher here. Right, so let's put the runway is 19, so yeah, let's put 270. And that's okay, yeah. So what you'll see now is the wind is blowing from here, so that'll push us. Our aircraft heading is 224, but because of the drift, the wind from our right hand side, our actual track over the ground is probably going to be more like 210, something like that. So what you should see is that this needle should start coming around to our right hand side, so we should start getting pushed to the left of the NDB. So what can you tell at the minute that we're now tracking this NDB? You can tell that we're heading straight towards the NDB at the minute on 223 heading. So you know we're 223 degrees towards the NDB, so that means you can also find our heading away from it, so that's about 044 degrees away. And if you look at your chart, although you don't have any distance information because it only is supplying directional information, if you look at our chart, you can tell straight away that 044 is somewhere up here. So you know straight away what line you're on. So that's fairly straightforward. Bit rubbish that you don't have any distance information, but because we have a lovely big screen here, we can use that. And so we can see that we are, take that away again, just to the northeast as we expected. More northeast actually than what I thought, but I didn't put a compass on the chart. But yeah, so you can see the direction we're coming in from. So yeah, you can also see now as well, really slowly, but the needle is slowly starting to drift to the right, and that's because we lined up perfectly with the needle, but we didn't take account for any of the drift from the wind. So our heading was 223, which was bang on the direction of the NDB, but because we've had wind from our right hand side, our actual track over the ground was more like maybe 210 or 220, so we're starting to drift to the south of the NDB direction. So that's why that is. So we'll look at tracking NDBs properly, but first thing I want to check is if we turn to the right, is there any lag on the needle from the dip of the bank? And it may be because we're going overhead now, so we'll try it on the way out. There may not be any, I haven't used NDBs properly in a long time, and I can't remember, to be honest, if in modern aircraft they have lag or not. The computer might take it out. So you can see we're passing really close now. Needle's really sensitive, and it's going to flick right around in the next second here as we go. So there's we're 90 degrees now, and now we're tracking away. So other thing we're going to discuss is how to track an NDB. So let's take the wind off for a second, and we're going to make it fully IMC. So let's take that off. Bit of turbulence with that. We're going to, yeah, that'll do. Okay, so let's put it at 400 feet for now. So can't, oh, what's happened? Can't see outside still. Clouds coverage 100%. Right. So we're up above the clouds, can't see the ground, and so we've passed overhead our NDB, and so let's say we wanted to track due south from the NDB. So what we've got to do is we know we've got to turn left, and we know it's exactly the same as the VOR. So what we've got to do is we've got to push the head or pull the tail. So we're tracking away from the NDB, so we need to pull the tail of the needle round to track the outbound course that we wanted to track. So let's try this, and it should be relatively sensitive because we've just passed overhead, so we were quite close, but we're obviously getting further away now. So you can see this needle's slowly pulling around. If it's not pulling around fast enough for you, you can put more of an intercept on, and that's going to pull it around really quickly now. Probably too quickly, so we'll go back to 151, 150. Right. So you can see that little blue needle slowly coming around. Don't pay any attention to this VOR needle, it's not doing anything at the minute. In fact, I might try and take it off if I can. I can't take it, just says FMS then. Okay, we'll just leave it up. So yeah, you can see that coming around nicely now, and whenever it's about 10 degrees to go, we'll have to take some bank off and try and get it straightened out. Now there's no wind now, so we don't need to worry about offsetting for drift. We're just going to focus purely on how to track the head, pull the tail and push the head and pull the tail. So that's what we're going to focus on. Okay, so you can see that slowly coming in. So the needle's really close now to south. So whenever it gets pretty much on it, because we've only got a 10-degree intercept on it now, and you can see as you get further away, and if you have less of an intercept on, the needle's less sensitive, so it takes a little bit longer to track it, but that looks pretty good to me now. And if you were doing this for real, and it was in an instrument rating exam or something like that, then you would be allowed plus or minus 5 degrees in the UK anyway, or probably EASA, you'd be allowed plus or minus 5 degrees, so so that would be an acceptable course now. So so that's how you intercept the tail. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to reposition. I'll probably skip this bit on the video, so we'll turn off to the east, and we'll try and track back towards, so we'll try and do some work with the head of the needle of the NDB, so we'll see how to do that. So I'll probably skip this bit on the YouTube video, and we'll pick up whenever we're a bit closer. So you can see now we're tracking up to the northeast, and the NDB needle is going off to the left, so we're pushing the needle head around, and so if we wanted to intercept that, then we could, but we'll push the needle head on around it more, and whenever we get to around about 300, then we'll intercept it. Bit of cloud surfing going on there, and we're getting really close to what we wanted to intercept, so probably left it a bit late, but we'll turn around to 300 now. Thanks to one of the guys on the comments told me that you can actually turn these knobs by scrolling your mouse wheel much quicker, so that was really handy. Thanks for that. So doesn't look like there's any dip. You could tell by whenever we roll wings level, it would come back about 5 degrees, but I don't think that's the case. So this is working out alright. You can kind of see we're a little bit off, so that's good. We'll show how to correct that then. So we're rolling out on 300, and the NDB needle's just slightly off to the left, so actually NDB needle's tracking about 295, something like that. So if we want to push it back and we want to track inbound at 300, what we need to do is push the head back. So what we're going to do is go back up, twist the heading bug just a little tiny bit, just enough to push the head, and we're getting close. As you can see, we're getting close to NDB, so it's going to get more and more sensitive. So there is no dip. Whether or not it's flight sim or modern aircraft don't actually have dip, I'm not sure. To be honest, I think some of the jets I flew still had it, but I didn't use it often enough to remember, and I haven't used it in quite a substantial amount of time now. But there you can see it's coming slowly back in. So that's pretty close now. Maybe overcorrected even a little bit too much. So this is kind of what you do whenever you're tracking NDBs. You're constantly just tweaking your heading, and so whenever we pass overhead here, we'll track outbound on the same. So you can see we're getting close. It's getting really sensitive. So we're going to do a little tiny bit more, and we're only going to do a tiny bit because we know there's no wind. So all we have to do is just get on that right side just to push that head back over. And it's really sensitive now. And this is quite slow to bank actually with the autopilot on this plane. So you would have done it quicker than that in real life if you're trying to get it to turn. But we're overhead now, right? So what we'll do is we'll go on to 300. And the tail's flipped around, and so we're going to pull the tail around down to 300. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is put some wind on again. So let's put, we'll have to put a northerly, let's put a southerly wind on, because we're going to be doing ILS later. Right, so there's a good wind. So you can see the turbulence associated with that. And you can also see, right, the wind, so the wind is blowing from down here. So you can see, you should see that actually our heading is 295, but probably our track is more like 320 or something like that. So what's going to happen is our heading looks like we're pulling the tail this way, but our actual track is more like 320, so the tail's going to swing around. So how do we compensate for that? So we want to track 300 and the wind's off to our left, so we're just going to put in some drift. And so by drift I mean is you're just going to put in a little bit of an offset to try and hold. Oh yeah, it's quite bumpy. I wonder what height that wind was up to. Let's see if we put in our PFD settings, wind. Yeah, so it is 30 knots up here. But it's swinging around a lot actually, so we've pulled that back quite nicely. So we probably have a little bit too much on. And I'm wondering, is that pink diamond anything? Does that mean our course or anything? I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know enough about this plane. That might be our actual track over the ground. Let's try that. Oops, too much. I would give it a bit of a fright. Yeah, so that looks like this is our actual track over the ground, so that's handy. You could actually just put the diamond on the blue line and that would hold it for you, so let's try that. Yeah, so that's looking pretty good actually. Maybe just needs to go a tiny bit. Oops. And if it was really windy like this, it wouldn't help things at all, so that wouldn't make things easy. But yeah, that looks quite good. So that's finished with the NDBs there. And next thing we're going to look at is an ILS approach. And we're actually going to use the NDB to get onto ILS. Any questions you can put in the comments. And as always, if there's any videos you'd like to see, just let me know. So, and hit the subscribe button. Thank you.